Insidious Out of the Further is the sixth film in the long-running horror franchise that was created by James Wan and Leigh Whannell. Out of the Further was written and directed by Jacob Chase. The movie follows Gemma, a young mother raising her daughter in the house she grew up in, who discovers she can travel into the Further where she possesses an ability to bring what lives there back into the real world. This will be a spoiler-free review, but before we get into it, are you going to see Insidious Out of the Further? Have you seen any of the other Insidious films? If so, which one's your favorite? And if not, why not? Let me know down in the comments below, and without wasting any more time, let's just jump straight into it. Starting off with the good, Gemma is a pretty good main character, not wanting to follow in the same footsteps as her mother. She pushes herself to be pretty much the exact opposite of her from her perspective, being way more involved with her child's life because of the way her mother treated her when she was younger. Gemma and Maya's relationship through the film, her daughter, is really good. It might just be the best relationship in the series since the first two films. I haven't seen the rest of them in a very long time, so I don't have a concrete opinion on this specifically, but they care deeply for each other, they play off each other really well, and you can see the effects they both have on each other, both positively and negatively. The big new thing this movie does is having our main character be able to bring stuff in and out of the Further. I think that's an interesting addition to the series, and they implement it really well. It's not wishy-washy with how it works. They keep it consistent throughout the film, and it even aligns with other people who can travel to the Further. How they're able to get this ability, and I really appreciate a movie that sticks to its established lore and doesn't treat it like it's something they can throw away if they want to. This new ability is making me think what else they can do to expand upon the lore in potential sequels. The side characters in the movie are also really good. The return of Elise is always great. She feels like the true heart and soul of the franchise, and Lynn Shay still brings so much life to the character even after all this time. While her role in the film isn't as prominent as it was in the first, third, and fourth film, I think this feels like the perfect amount of time without it feeling like she was underutilized and not given the respect that she deserves as a franchise veteran. Nick, Gemma's boyfriend, is a really good guy who just wants to be more involved in Gemma's life, even though she seems to be keeping him at arm's length for some reason that he doesn't know about. The thing that I genuinely liked about his character is that he doesn't think Gemma is crazy when she's telling him what's happening to her. He believes her, even if it's a little hard to understand, and is willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that she feels and is safe. I'm glad they didn't go the route of making him think she's crazy just to learn that she's not later down along in the film. That's a trope that I think is boring and uninteresting and doesn't do any of the characters who use it justice unless they have good intention and good reasoning why they do not believe the main character. And finally, you have Claire, who's probably the least interesting out of the main characters. She's not bad by any means, but compared to everyone else, she just doesn't get as many opportunities as the other characters to really do anything. She's kind of just there to be a replacement for Specs and Tucker if you've seen the other films, and she does fill that role well, but I wish she had more to do, but not everyone in the film gets that time they deserve, and unfortunately, Clara was that person in this movie. The main thing that I really liked about Insidious Out of the Further is the main spirit, Cyrus, and his whole plan. While it seems to be the main goal of every spirit in the Further to take control of a body and escape back to the physical world to cause mayhem, in this movie, I think this might kind of be a spoilery, so if you don't want to hear anything, just skip a bit. But in this kind of movie, you get here that with a twist, Cyrus isn't just trying to take someone's body to get back to the physical world. He's trying to use these new powers as a way to get unkillable spirits back into the real world. He has these followers who don't really know if they're just spirits that our main character is seeing like other people in the series, or are they real people and just making her think she's going insane. I like how they played it up a lot until they go into their backstory and their connection to Cyrus. I think it's well done and makes sense as to why they're doing what they're doing. They bring such an unease into the real world that we haven't seen in the franchise before. They play a really big role in Cyrus's plan and are way more important than I would have ever thought they would have been. While they are just expandable pawns at the end of the day, they have so much more say on the story than arguably Cyrus himself. Obviously, they're working under his orders, but without them, his plan kind of goes nowhere. While they aren't the main threat, they should never be underestimated, and along with Cyrus, who's probably the second or third most intimidating spirit in the franchise, you get a group that is working in unison to achieve their goal, and I wasn't expecting that at all from this movie. It's refreshing to see a franchise in its sixth entry still trying to reinvent itself and keeping new and fresh ideas. Moving on to the mix, I don't really have much to say, but the one thing that the Insidious franchise as a whole does is that they are way too reliant on jump scares. Now, I get it, in PG-13 movies, you can't really show that much graphic content, and jump scares are the easiest way to get people's heart rates up and get those cheap thrills. But even so, I think you could do it in a more unique way with the jump scares and not just the same things that a lot of horror movies do. Now, not all of the jump scares in Out of the Further are basics. There are some that are really well done and felt like they are more thought put into them, but the vast majority of them are still what you've come to expect from a jump scare. I know personally I'm biased against jump scares. I find them to be the easiest and the cheapest way to get someone to be thrilled and kind of scared. And hey, it worked really well most of the time, but I just want them to be done in a more interesting way or used sparingly. I don't dislike jump scares when they're used when they're surrounded by other kinds of scares, but when your movie is solely jump scare dependent, I want them to be some of the best around. And in Out of the Further, you get what you come to expect. So if you love jump scares, I think you'll really enjoy this movie more than me even. It has a lot of them, and seeing the reaction from some of the people in my theater, I would say it worked pretty dang well. Moving on to the bad, just like the mix, I really don't have much to say that I think is negative about this movie, but the main issue I have is it tells the audience way too much. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to get into specifics of what it's telling, but to me it made me feel like the movie thought I couldn't put two and two together, even though they were showing me what was happening in real time with the over-explanation. I don't know why they felt the need to over-explain the thing that was happening. To an extent, I kind of forgot how the further works since it's been a few years since I've seen an Insidious film. But once it was happening, I was putting all the pieces together myself, and I was thinking to myself, wow, this is actually a well-done callback, and the movie is doing a good job at being consistent with past films, while also reaffirming what's happening with time in the further. But then they started to just over-explain what was happening, like the audience can't put it together themselves. To an extent, it made me feel like I'm dumb, and I don't appreciate when a movie is treating me like I'm a toddler. I promise you, audience members for the most part are smarter than you think. You don't need to over-explain what they can see with their own two eyes, especially things that you just showed what's happening. There's no need for that. You're only hurting yourself in the long run. But yeah, overall, I really didn't have any other major issues with this movie. This doesn't go on for that long, but the face I was making when it was over-explaining itself just stuck out to me. But it did reel itself back in because I thought that was where the movie was rolling right into the ending. But thankfully, it didn't end right there and end on a sour note. So it could have been a lot worse for me personally. Well, I wasn't too excited for the next Insidious film after The Red Door was kind of just a whatever film and thinking the best of the series is in the past. But the expansion on the lore and the solid cast of main characters and antagonists have made me excited to see what the future holds for the Insidious franchise. Insidious Out of the Further gets a 7 out of 10 for me. This is exactly what the series needed to rejuvenate itself from what seemed like a franchise that was out of ideas and just needed to be kind of put on ice to one that still has some fight left in it. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date for my next review. And until next time, have a great rest of your day.